Thanks for calling the Beards and Sundries hotline. You've reached Anthony. Leave a message after the beep.
Daddy's got it.
That was it?
That was it.
Okay.
Good evening. This is Beards and Sundries Podcast News, your one-stop news shop every Sunday, with your host, Jay. Another host, Anthony. And another host, Joe. We're your Beards and Sundries hosts and news anchors for Season 5 of Beards and Sundries.
And welcome back to the Beards and Sundries News Network.
And we're back.
More like do-do-do-do-do-do.
Hey, John.
Oh, John.
That's right, guys. It's time for another lunch break here at Beards and Sundries, the shop where three gay men with beards do inventory on a new sundry in each episode.
My name is Jay, and God, my dogs and cats are starting to look so fucking delicious. Nom, nom, nom.
Especially if you're in Springfield, Ohio.
Oh, God, I'm going to pack the dog and cat up and head up there so I can munch away.
Yet another kind of pussy I don't want to eat.
Oh, God, Merlin would be so hairy.
Would be.
I'm Anthony, and my first gay date was in the passenger seat of a Lexus SC400.
Country roads. Oh.
Okay.
Break my back.
To the natty light, hidden on the
Blow
side of the
me
road, because we were underage, and I still didn't drink because I was too good of a Christian.
Oh, my God, the side road sex I used to have.
And I'm Joe, and love may or may not be in the air, but let's find out. And that means that today's sundry item is first dates. Now, for a very special episode today, we have learned that our Gen Z listener, Bryce, has had a first gay date. Filled with nostalgia and what the dating scene used to be like, we have decided to make this an extended session of beardo submitted sundries. Unsolicited love advice from the three best experts in all of aisle 4. After the break, we're going to reflect on some of the not fun and the really not fun moments of the presidential debate last week, and then we will do our weekly inventory of beardo submitted sundries and something to check out. But before we turn on Netflix and get ready to chill, how about this week's voicemail?
Thanks, Daddy. I'm sending you the bill. Don't ask what it's for. I'm just
It's like
sending
I'm
it
sending
to
you all my bills.
Just pay it.
Don't question it, just pay it.
I'll
Just
give you
send
the
me your
login
credit
to my
card
rent.
number. Listen, I'm going to
Yes.
send you... I'm going to send you...
What's the 3-digit code?
It's the 3-digit code on the back, and then your zip code, too.
And maybe your first dog's name, just in case.
And then we'll have a drink in whatever city you're in this week.
This isn't fishing.
Yeah.
You're just giving it to me.
Yeah, I'm not spam. I'm just taking your money.
Be careful. You'll be taking that spam all right if you're not careful.
Oh, God, it's canned.
Well, it's about to be opened if you're not careful.
Canned up in my butt. Thanks, Derek.
So don't do these things on first dates.
Yes, speaking of first dates, Jay, what is a wonderful sundry that's in our mailbox right now?
So, yes, instead of using this in user content, we made this an episode.
You just skipped all the way over. If I could find beardo submitted sundries in the sundries aisle.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. You can pick it up now.
Well, Anthony, ask your dumb question then.
Oh, okay. Well, could you find beardo submitted sundries in the sundries aisle?
Oh. Okay.
Was that less enthusiastic? Is that more the speed? Well, if you're new to the show and you're just wondering what the heck a sundry is,
The term comes from an Old English word meaning odds and ends. Now, as three very dateable gay men with beards, we're using the term to group together items that wouldn't other... Yeah, I don't know. I'm really butchering it now that I realize it.
Better than me. I don't retain the memory for it.
I was trying really hard. I was doing okay. Let's get there.
Yeah, that's fine. Good job, Anthony.
Yeah, close enough.
That wasn't even it.
So we are using the word to cover the wide range of topics that we cover.
Yay!
Yay!
Fantastic,
That's
Joe.
what it was. Thanks, Joe, for coming in clutch with the actual thing we say.
Now, back to what we were saying before we forgot stuff. We heard from Bryce this week, our Bryce check. And
Hi, Bryce.
He said, "Hey,
Hi,
beardos.
Bryce.
I've been catching up on recent episodes. Life's been busy. Shout out to my sister who just graduated from nursing school with her ASN. Woohoo! Yay!"
Congratulations.
While listening to the fast food episode, I realized that none of you included Raising Cane's in your top 10. What do y'all have against Cane's? And Jay, the Hardee's near me is terrible now. Their mushroom Swiss used to be so good, but it's been declining more and more. After this week's episode, I want to watch Twisters even less than I did before, but I did see Beetlejuice, and it was pretty good. I actually went to see it on a second date. So, as y'all already know, I'm 21. But I just went on my first ever date with a guy and had my first kiss. Yes, I know I'm late to the party, but I don't need the judgment. But can I get some general gay dating advice from my elder gays? And no, Anthony, just because I'm calling you elder doesn't mean I'm calling you old.
Well, it can be two things.
Can't wait for the next episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the upcoming debate on ABC, depending on when you guys record. So, that is how we got this episode idea.
Well, what an exciting email. Let's start at the top, shall we? Congratulations to your sister, of course. That is no
Yes,
easy feat.
congratulations.
Heck yeah, that's a lot of work.
Moving on! Raising Cane's does one thing and one thing only, and that's chicken fingers. Now, they may do two things with the dipping sauce, but that is also very good, but it's also very easy to replicate. So, when I'm given a choice of chicken restaurants or fast food restaurants in general, Cane's isn't really on my radar because of how simplistic everything they do is. And I'm never in so much of a hurry that I just need chicken fingers and tenders and sauces and I need to pay $11 for it.
I only go to Cane's because somebody else said, let's go to Cane's.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or it just happened to be a very convenient place in a very convenient time.
Well, also, I mean, I know we really, gushed over Brahms whenever we did this episode, but I'm going to go back to Brahms because they have a chicken tender basket, and their Brahms sauce, I got to tell you, it beats cane sauce. I was trying to make Brahms sauce once, and I accidentally made cane sauce.
No!
I know. I was like, this is peppery. This isn't right. Ah! So it's probably, I mean, between that and then so when I think of chicken tenders, I don't think Cane's. I think Brahms, or I think maybe I'll order Cheddars. And then if I'm thinking that I want a chicken sandwich, I'm going to go to Popeyes. So I don't know. Cane's just doesn't, there's not much there for me.
That's it. All the stuff I like from Cane's, I can get somewhere else better.
And the
Because I go to
fries
Dairy
are
Queen for my chicken
always
strips.
so meh.
They're crinkle cut, too, which is a disappointment that they're meh.
Yeah, because I love
Which
crinkle
doesn't
cut
make
fries.
sense because the crinkle cut fries at Brahms are so good.
Oh, my
know.
God. They're like cream-worthy.
Yeah, seriously.
Shit, I'm wet now at the idea.
Oh, my pants are full of Brahms sauce.
Sounds like a good place for the third date.
We just watch Anthony through the show dip fries down in his pants.
I mean, if there were really Brahms sauce in there, I probably would.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I would do it. There's no waste in that sauce.
Now, moving on to Hardee's, I can see where they probably have been going downhill as of late, which a lot of places really are, so I can't really be that surprised, but,
I was
meh.
Pre-COVID, they were kind of on the edge, even though, sometimes if you went to the right one, you could hit some really good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming post-COVID, they really just kind of got kicked in the nuts.
A lot of places did.
Yeah. So did I.
Ha!
Nut.
Next up on your email, if I were given the choice between Twisters and Beetlejuice myself, I probably would go see Beetlejuice because
For sure.
I'm not quite sure what is happening in the story continuation with Beetlejuice, but I was able to kind of piece together what was going to happen in Twisters before it happened, and then it happened, and then I was just like, Oklahoma. Disappointing me once again.
As always.
The whole movie, like, of Twisters feels like a love letter to what people want Oklahoma to be. Like, it's this, like, free range. Everybody's just, we're none of us have a bunch of money, but we have a lot of heart and spirit, and we got a Dodge truck. And
A Dodge truck.
and that makes up for everything else. When in reality, Oklahoma is a lot of very much like, it's a lot of people living in poverty. With vehicles that can barely make it down the street, let alone make it through a tornado. And there's a lot of meth use around here. Awful lot of meth use.
We're also one of the states that bitch about taxes and taking money from government, and we're actually one of the states
Don't we
that...
have, like, one of the lowest tax rates in the country?
Yeah, and we produce so little income that we actually don't put enough money to federal. We actually take more from federal than we put in, unlike several other blue states.
Sounds right.
Yeah, we're up there with basically all the red states on how much we take from federal government rather than give.
All that is
So,
to say, Beetlejuice,
We're a welfare
Beetlejuice
state.
is probably preferable to Twisters.
I would assume so. Also, Catherine O'Hara, of course.
Right, and Jenna Ortega.
Yeah. Winona Ryder.
Yeah, Winona Ryder, too.
And Gina Davis.
Oh, I was
Was
so
Gina
sad
Davis
about
there?
Gina
In
Davis
it.
wasn't in this.
I was like, wait,
She's not in this one.
Gina Davis was in it? I was excited. You got me all excited.
I would already have seen it if she was, because I just love her.
I mean, who doesn't? It's Gina Davis.
But now,
Yes.
on to the main portion.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
Let's talk about dating, gay dating.
Let's start off with congratulations.
Yes.
We're so proud of you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yay. I don't think I had my first gay kiss till I was 18, I don't think.
I was 18, but it wasn't really, like, romantic.
That was my first, like, romance kiss. But I also went super hardcore on being a slut after I turned 18 and moved out. Like, it was just,
Same.
like, balls to the wall, literally.
Literally.
And to the floor, to the ceiling, and on the butt, and in the butt.
On the butt.
I was 16, I think, when I had my very
Really?
first, like, kiss. That was...
Gay kiss?
And I was...
This wasn't like you standing somebody up at the fair, right?
No, this was a boy I'd met, and boy, or maybe I was 16, right? It was late 16, but
Don't ask me.
I was nervous as fuck. I was like shaking.
I can see that. I was less nervous because when it did happen, it was around a bunch of other gay people.
Oh yeah, we were alone, and I was just like, oh god.
I could see that.
I was so scared.
You were like,
What
what
was
now?
What was his name? Josh. That's what I was
Josh?
Of course it was.
Definitely Josh.
Josh.
And then I
So-
kissed a lot of other boys after that.
There we go. Yeah. So, is there any more information given, like location, where they go, they eat anything
Nope.
besides each other? Maybe.
Nom, 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 nom.
He's early in on his experience. He's not at the point yet where, you just go on a date and that just means having sex. You have sex
I'm
and then
sorry.
you go on the date.
You're a gay man. Did you
What?
really just say that assumption
I'm
of a sentence?
saying maybe Bryce is taking his time.
Well, also,
Oh, okay.
He,
So maybe he
could've-
is.
I was like, he could have been like me, where it was very much, you were super hopeless romantic up front and not sexual.
Yep.
And then you did have a little bit of sex. And you're like, well, that's fun. And then after that, you were like, oh, I'm going to find the love of my life through sex.
Always the right answer.
It was, yeah. It was an era for me. They're going to fall in love with me. Like, they're going to...
This is why Taylor Swift wrote that album.
Oh, God. If she would have been writing this stuff when I was younger, I would probably be a Swiftie.
Oh my God, I bet you would. I would too, though. Let's be real.
I'm confident if she was what she is now and I was in late high school, I would be a fucking Swiftie.
So, on the subject of like early dating lives and then the cross section of that in music, because I'm gonna just take it here for a minute. What were you guys' like hopeless romance like albums / songs? Whatever you were like around like a teenager, like when you were really in it. You know what I'm talking about? Like you're like in the love song. You're there. You feel every fucking emotion from the beginning of the song to the end.
It was not the popular version, but the ballad version of Every Time We Touch, I Get the Feeling. The ballad version was so, oh God, and I ate it up.
I always seemed to be chronically crushing on people that I wasn't sure if they were gay, but they were always at like other schools, and they were at events that I went to, and so there's this song by Incubus called "Wish You Were Here," and I remember just like diving into that, and I was reminded of it. Was it last night? We saw Brandon Boyd on RuPaul's, or was it the night before last? One of those two. Anyways, the lead singer of Incubus was on one of the more recent RuPaul's episodes, like the All-Star episodes, and like immediately I was like, oh my God, I felt so many emotions listening to your album Morning View.
I'm pretty sure somewhere stored in this house still is some burnt CDs that I won't get rid of because it was the last set of burnt CDs that I had in my visor holder in my first car.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this funny nostalgic memory that I just stash them away.
Yeah.
You should put it in your current car as like a decoration.
People get in and they're like, what's this? And it says rock CD or something. Amber's rock CD.
They dive
Probably
into
says like
it,
Jay's Charleston Classics.
right
Turn up the radio, toots.
Right next to like a Broadway album right next to it.
They start pulling discs out, but it's every AOL free like disc that you got from when you were a kid. And that's all that's up there.
The installation discs for our old Gateway.
Yes. Yeah. Now you're getting it.
Oh, this guy had weird taste.
I don't know. I feel like we were going to start this podcast as a sort of dating advice podcast, and so we're weirdly
going to the OG roots.
Circling back around to what we were going to do in the first place, but decided we couldn't do a weekly episode of without like getting redundant.
Okay, so we should probably get into that. Like, what advice do we have?
Well, as someone who hasn't had to really date, I guess we did date Joel for a while, but that was a very different situation than just dating one person. But I haven't had to date in a while, so it's a very different landscape than it was whenever I was dating, as far as how to meet and different and things to do and things like that.
One thing that I don't think I would have ever thought of for a long, long, long time up until recently. Learn about yourself and your attachment styles, because trauma gives everyone attachment styles of some sort. Or if you didn't have trauma, you're secure, and that's wild. But what's that like?
You got trauma. I promise you got trauma. It's in there.
If you're gay, you've got it. But learn about those and figure out where you fit in and find out why you behave the way you do or think the way you do about things, and grow from there. I wish I would have done that a lot sooner than I do, even now. Like, I'm working on it now.
So therapy.
Yes. Therapy.
Grow from love.
From love. God. I just want to scream like she did whenever she found out that they were all... their therapist was
cheating on her?
Cheating with her husband, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a while since I watched it. I just remember her screaming, "I'm sorry!
I'm sorry!" I don't know. I feel like, obviously, being more comfortable with yourself is a really great first step to anything. Like, if you aren't prepared to just spend time by yourself, you're not going to do well in a relationship. You might for a while, because having that other person there is a good outlet, but it does not last.
That initial honeymoon stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you'll get all the things you were looking for in a relationship in that beginning portion, for the most part. I mean, unless you just are really incompatible, but you're just going for it anyways. But, like, you're going to get those feelings that you're looking for, but the problem is that they're just feelings. And at the end of the day, feelings, as real as they are and existent as they aren't based in real things for the most part. They're based in the way that your body reacts to real things, but they're not based in real things. And so it can be easy to mistake another person for being what you needed to complete yourself, when that's just not ever true. Like, you're never going to be complete with another person if you aren't complete on your own.
You inevitably will always have to complete yourself in all your happiness and your love. When you date someone, you're adding someone to give support to you and love to you, not because you need it. It's because you guys work together well with it. You're kind of a partnership to take care of each other, but take care of yourself, Right. And it's less about, like, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you can't date anybody until you have figured out and you are perfectly in love with yourself, because that's not true either. Nobody's ever perfect.
It's just a matter of making sure that whenever you are dating someone, you give yourself space and bandwidth to still be yourself and do the things that you like to do, and you don't let the relationship take over everything that you are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was going to pop in here and say that these little rectangles have become way more popular in our lives, not just in dating, but in all facets of life. But this cell phone and communication itself, especially with social media, can be a very important and integral part of a new relationship or friendship in general. So, as an old, crusty, useless millennial, I can give a couple of small pieces of phone advice. The first one I can think of is, don't make yourself too available. Meaning that if a text comes through from someone you're crushing on, or if it's a new romance or whatever, I would say you could check it. One thing you should do is turn your read receipts off. And it's in your settings on most phones, and it'll stop it from showing that you've read someone's message and you're just not replying to it. Because what you want to do, and what I like to do, is I like to go read the message right then and then decide if I want to reply right then or if I want to let it kind of marinate for a while and think of a better response later. So what I'll do is I'll check a message, or I'll see it, or I won't because I'm at work or busy, but then I'll come back to it. And I've thought about what I want to say, I've thought about what I don't want to say, I haven't just done a quick haha react emoji or whatever a lot of the times, or I'll try to make it more of a meaningful conversation than just, hey, LOL, haha. At least, if you're showing interest in somebody, you want to show interest in them the way that shows them that you're thinking of them, not just when you're talking to them, but, all the time. So it's fun to kind of, if it's been a couple days or a couple hours, or, it's evening now and it was morning before, just a quick little hey, or like a little picture, or respond to their message or something like that. And if it feels weird, you can always just say like, sorry, I got busy at work, or I was driving, or I didn't have time to reply earlier, but what's up now? And just kind of check back in. And don't overthink the phone, because people overthink them too much anyway.
Yeah.
That's really true. And the converse side to that is, don't forget that if they're taking a while to respond to you, it may not have anything to do with you. I mean, take people at face value versus assuming, like, reading into their actions. Because if you're like what Joe's talking about, if you are expecting a message back immediately, you're not going to get one from people who are busy or people who just don't look at their phones as often. And I support not being on your phone. Like, I support not responding to messages every time, and I support not responding to them until you feel like responding to them, because unless it's like some life or death situation, because otherwise, like, otherwise you're not building a barrier between yourself and other people, and that barrier needs to exist.
Well, and on top of that, setting boundaries in general. And that's hard to do, especially when you don't realize that you, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. It's hard to do when you don't realize that, like me, I'm a people pleaser. I've always been an anxious person, and I didn't realize how much that I go along with what other people do rather than just setting my own boundaries. And so over time, I started setting my own, and I just keep working on setting more. But it's so easy to fall into that path of just doing what the other guy wants to do, sometimes even if you're not quite comfortable with it. And so reading yourself is extremely important. I did a lot of things when I was younger that I didn't really want to do, but I felt like I had to do because I needed somebody to love me. I thought that I didn't feel like I gained a lot of love growing up. And so I felt like I had to just figure out somebody that would love me. And so you had to just kind of sacrifice yourself a little bit in order to get that. And I'm very glad I don't think that way now, but I hate who I was for a long time looking back.
Emotional damage.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like that's such a... People pleasing is really easy to fall into, especially when you're gay, because if you're trying to hide being gay, a lot of times you're spending a lot of time trying to think, like, what do people expect of me, and let me try to emulate that. And so you're giving into being a people pleaser off the bat. And it can be easy to mistake doing things for people because you think they'll love you versus doing things for people because you think they won't like you. And it's okay for people not to like you. If people are asking you to do something that makes you really uncomfortable and they're not okay with you not doing it, or if they just aren't respecting your boundaries and your comfort zone, you need to run from that person anyways.
Yeah. They're never going to respect you if they start off being disrespectful.
Well, it's not even that. Like, if they're going to be disrespectful in the first place of your boundaries, then they don't respect you already.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's no reason to stick around with that. It may feel like you're doing the right thing by kind of like bucking up and doing something that you don't want to do. But at the same time, and if somebody really cares about you, they're not going to ask you to do something that makes you really uncomfortable like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like asking you to get on a roller coaster and then you being like, I'm not sure, and be like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. But asking you to do like, heroin, that would probably not be okay for some people. Hey, if you're into heroin, do your own thing.
Or even like sex. If you're not ready for sex or you don't want to have sex, you don't have to do those things.
That's probably the more common example than heroin.
That's a wildly common example. Yeah, because especially men that drink, get really pushy. A lot can get very pushy and super disrespectful, and that is a huge red flag.
And it is just as prevalent in the gay world as it is in the straight world.
100%.
Do not misunderstand that because we're gay, we're all kinds of enlightened and whatnot, because there are a lot of guys out there who are just as bad, if not worse.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the second word in gay men is still men.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then I think the last bit of my, like, big advice, I'm sure I could think of way more stuff, is you're not always going to be liked. Somebody that you like will not see you as somebody that they're interested in, and that's normal. That's fine. It's not a you problem. It's the same concept as if you're not interested in somebody else, but they're interested in you. It's the same exact concept. Like, that just happens. And there's no reason to be offended by it, which I used to be terribly offended because I was like, how could you not like me? Because I was a people pleaser. And I had to have everyone like me. So just know that there will be people that are respectful about their decline. There will be shitty people. There will be people that ghost you. The people that ghost you, the people that treat you bad, are the people that have a lot of internal problems themselves. I was an excellent ghoster. And it's because I was afraid of the confrontation of dealing with it. So I just disappeared. So from my perspective, I fully get why they do it. And know that it's not a you problem.
I'd also like to think that the newer generations are beginning to have that mindset, and it's a lot more healthy for them to go through life like that. And one good thing that I'm seeing about all the comment sections and all the TikTok and all the slang and everything is that the word consent has been thrown around way more these days than even when we were in college. And if you are seen as someone who doesn't value consent, you're like immediately blacklisted and people want nothing to do with you. And because it's just all these pieces of proof over the years have shown how poisonous that kind of thinking is, or at least the content that I'm consuming. But it just seems that consent has become such an important part of not just love life, but daily life in general. And it's really great that that important word, consent, has been seen as more of an important facet of daily life, and it's got a lot more respect these days, which I think is a great thing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely make sure you're getting that consent and that you're giving that consent.
Yeah, and that you're
and giving something else.
With consent, of course.
Of course.
I don't know. I feel like my last little bit of relationship advice, there's a lot of relationship advice we could give because I've been in bad relationships several times and, you learn a lot from those. But I'd say, like, at the point that you're at, and really any point when you're in the dating pool, like, you can date with the purpose of finding your forever person, but if you do that, odds are you're sort of going to imprint your ideas of what that person should be on the person that you're dating. So just go in and have fun and don't try to make too much out of it too soon. And then if it happens, great.
Also, how do I explain this? Don't set your expectations unbelievably high, as in, like, this person has to have this and that and be this and think this and do this. Yes, they need to have... There's levels of expectations you can have of people. You don't want to just date somebody that does not make you happy in any way or is not conducive to your life. But if you build too high of expectations and standards that you set people at, I think you start to miss out on a huge crowd. Because, for example, I used to only want to date more masculine style men back in the day because I didn't want it to come off that I was dating too feminine of men because of my internal homophobia. And so then I started breaking that and started going, you need to meet people that aren't your normal style. And I ended up meeting wonderful people that were much more enjoyable to be around. And so I took out a lot of my old expectations that I'd built for no reason.
Is that why you liked Garth Brooks so much?
I think so. Oh
He's
my god.
straight.
Speaking of, yeah, I just watched his interview today. Well, clips of it, where he's like talking about how he's like, yeah, Garth Brooks is a character, but I'm straight. And I'm like, this is so wild. This makes so much sense for me. Which his acting in porn does remind me that. He's like, oh yeah, you like that dick.
What?
It's that video of that guy who's like, you like that dick? Yeah, it's cool. Take that dick. Okay.
The only work we're going to be doing around here is working my cock. What? Oh, that video will live rent-free in my head forever.
It's wonderful. Well, you know what they say. Expectations are the enemy of happiness.
They are.
Yeah. So,
But, like, I mean, if you don't want to be around somebody that smokes on a regular basis, those kind of expectations are...
you have to have some.
Yeah,
because
those are
that's also
still
right.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay to be like, preserving the things that you like, your core beliefs and core values. Like, those
Yeah.
expectations are fine.
Like, and
But,
I don't care
know.
if people smoke. I just don't want my house to smell like it. I'm like, you just can't make it linger everywhere.
I don't know if I could do the dating a smoker thing, but that's just me. I mean, some people don't care. But my parents were lifelong smokers, and I just hated the
Oh,
smell
I
of
know.
it.
The smell of it growing up. I was around it all the time, and it was awful.
Yeah.
It's probably why I'm so deathly ill all the time.
The crown is falling deathly ill. Silent.
It's from the chat
Sorry.
piles, Jay.
Well, chat piles and cigarette smoking, what else did they do to
Your
me?
mom out there, like, throwing you on the chat pile out there with a cigarette leaned down next to your face.
I mean, my mom wasn't even a smoker, but the picture is great. Like,
No,
everyone around me is just going, you kids having fun? Drink out of this
It's healthy to
hose.
play outside.
It's from the hose next to this chat pile.
Back in my day, we drank from the hose. Well, back in your day, you didn't live in Flint, Michigan.
I wonder
Back in your
if
day,
the water
pipes
in
were
Latham
new.
tastes like chat.
What does chat taste like, Jay? Tell us.
Is the water in Latham like from Wichita? Like it's not a big enough town, is it? Does it have its own water tower?
Yeah, it had its own little water tower on the opposite
Okay.
end of town where the chat pile was. And the chat pile, I think, was brought
So it was
in.
totally like from the Swedish springs from the Alps water flown
Yes.
in daily.
But remember, I was well water, so I was an underground spring that my house set on. So it was the freshest water out of our.
And there's no
outlet
way,
pipe.
no way the chat could have gotten down there.
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Not at the
in
water table.
groundwater.
And I can guarantee we've never tested it in my entire life. So
Gotta watch out. 'cause that
They're
water
walking out of they're walking out of the Lowe's in Latham, and they're like, "You want a free water test?" And everyone's like, "Get out of here! The water's fine."
They put the water test near them, and all of the red flags on it start going off just because it's near them as a person.
All of their skin turns red and falls off.
Oh, right,
I
right.
just imagine Karen Silkwood running in, and she's like, "You're contaminated."
Every time a guy walks by, a testicle falls off.
Welcome to the club.
The Pink Pony Club.
Right.
One testicle club. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. One testicle club.
Well, it still wasn't your intro, so it doesn't count for the bingo card. Sorry, Jay.
One day. But do you guys think it's time for a break? And then when we come back, we can talk about the presidential candidates that we happen to be
Jesus.
courting currently?
Yes.
One thing I'd like to end on before we go to break, and to make it take longer to go to break, so I don't have to talk about the fucking debate coming up. So one thing I'll leave you with is this, Beardos. If you decide to be a young, love-struck gay boy moving across the country for a boy you think is the love of your life, just know that even after the catastrophic breakup, you too can upgrade and find the man of your dreams. And as of next month, we will have been together for 14 years.
Oh my God, really? Is it next month?
Don't sound so love-struck.
No, I'm so surprised.
Oh my god.
No, I love it.
God, Beta. You should have been there. Pickles were only 14 cents.
Pickles were
One for
39
every year.
cents.
He only had half the prices on his back then.
Because the other half was on his testicle that he lost.
It just sort of snuck up on me. Like, the year number keeps getting so much, like, bigger, and it does not feel like that.
Well, that's what happens, every year the number keeps
Yeah.
growing.
Jay says, given my understanding of linear time. But yeah, I think let's go ahead and slide on down that chat pile and roll on into a break.
Fantastic. Well, then, let's take a break, and when we get back, we will talk about this recent presidential debate.
Hey listeners, are you ready to add some spice to your wardrobe? Check out hunkytops.com, the queer, Latino-owned clothing site that brings you the hottest styles. And here's an exclusive deal just for you, listeners. Get 10% off your first order with the code SUNDRIES. That's right, 10% off when you use the code SUNDRIES at checkout. They do offer sizes above 3XL. Just hit the contact button and request a larger size and they'll accommodate the best they can. So, what are you waiting for? Visit hunkytops.com today. Explore their amazing styles and wear your pride with confidence. hunkytops.com. Wear your pride, live your style. Remember, hunkytops.com. Use code SUNDRIES for 10% off your first order. Order now! You're listening to the Beards and Sundries podcast, the news source that's still rated 5 out of 6 balls.
I watched this just before we started recording because I didn't want to watch it last night.
I didn't actually fully watch it last night, but I feel like I did because I watched almost every TikTok today about it.
I watched the whole thing today. All of it. Every second of it.
My strategy for things like this is similar to Jay's. Like, I'll basically just catch the cliff notes the next day because there's going to be multiple articles on BBC, NPR, things on YouTube, things on TikTok. I watched a Watch Mojo video today. They make those in a day. So they basically just did their version of the 10 craziest things from the debate. And I was like, that's it. I just watched the debate in 10 minutes instead of an hour and 52 minutes.
Watch Mojo is like the South Park of YouTube channels. They just turn out content so fast.
That's true.
I don't know. I feel like I didn't want to watch this last night because I didn't realize it was happening at first, and then I saw it on like Hulu or something, and instead I decided to start watching Independence Day Resurgence, that terrible 2016 movie that is only fan service that doesn't have Will Smith in it, but it does have A-Train.
That's true.
He's the Will Smith kid.
I started it last night and I think I got 10 to 15 minutes in, and I was like, all right, I'm going to bed. So I went and laid in bed.
I haven't taken a lot of time to watch a lot of Donald Trump speaking at length. I did watch one of his interviews that was like an hour and 20 minutes long once, and I had to really force my way through it because the first 10 minutes were pretty normal and what I would expect. And then he made some comment about immigration, and it just went off the fucking rails immediately. And that seems to be his go-to in every single debate space. He is taking time to just, like, hammer down on immigration. It's the only thing that he gets, like, on top of at any length. He might mention other things briefly, but it always turns back to immigration.
And I can summarize in an hour and a half all of his answers about that. It was, I had the best economy. This immigration is the worst that we've ever seen, probably
ever.
That
isn't true, though. That actually is the truth by numbers. He's not lying with that one thing. Do not misunderstand. This guy is a piece of shit. I hate him. And if he died tonight, I'd celebrate tomorrow. I'd take the day off work. I'd take the week off work. I'd take the year off work.
I'd day drink all day.
Yeah.
But everything he says is always, whatever it is, it's the worst probably, or it's the worst we've ever seen. Nobody knew it would be this bad on anything he talks about. And then, so he repeats it that way, and then he constantly just uses scary words. At one point, he was saying, we're bringing them in from insane asylums, from jails, from all this stuff. And I'm like, you are the Family Guy episode where you just say scary words.
9?
Yellow cake uranium.
Yeah, like
To
11.
unwed
Exactly.
teenage mothers using the lake as a base.
If Kamala would have just been like, 9/11 was the worst, everyone would have been like, oh my God, because
Yeah.
that's... Trump is using the simplest form of marketing, the oldest form of marketing.
Scare
He's just
tactics.
using scary words.
Yeah.
Lowest
And-
common denominator.
but it works. So,
Yep.
like,
Absolutely.
my grandma, who I love to death, wants to vote for Trump. And when I talk to her about it, we try not to get too much into it because I love my grandma and I just don't want to do that. But
And I don't want to hate her.
that's kind of it. And I know, like, I have already alienated a couple of family members. Not that they were really close to me in the first place, but just, like, completely been like, you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to talk to that person again because of this, like, specific presidential candidate. Donald Trump is just, he's such a huge piece of shit. But, like, she is scared of immigrants because of those types of things. She's like, I'm just not sure who's coming over the border. And, man, I gotta tell you, the vast majority of people, they're not going to be, like, if you have the wherewithal to make your way across the border to seek asylum, like, I don't know, you're going to let criminals in, but this is disproportionately different than all of the domestic terrorism that we experience in the, like, form of school shootings, in the form of mass shootings. Those aren't people coming across the border. Those are just white kids that grew up to be white dudes with an agenda.
These people
So-
running across the border are trying to kind of stay out of the limelight, so they're not going to go do
Yeah.
that stuff.
Right. So, do you bring that point up to her?
So, yes, and I did bring that up, and it's this weird thing because I'm not out to prove a point necessarily when I'm talking to her. If it gets brought up, we talk about it, but the second that she wants to let it go, I let it go because I just don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to think about that in the context of my family any more than I have to because I know where a lot of my family sits, and it is really disheartening to feel like that level of alienation could exist between who I am as a person and who my family perceives me as.
I mean, it's scary to think about it because, you know, that shooting in Georgia last week was perpetrated by a white male, and the one in Kentucky just recently, the one who was randomly shooting off of a highway overpass, that was also done by a white male. So the people that are coming across the border who you think are coming to do Sandy Hook 2.0, that's not their prerogative. Where's this even coming from?
It's been a scare tactic for ages. I mean, it's tale as old as time. Like the outsider, the alien, the person who's different. That's the person who you should be scared of. We've been doing this scare tactic as a country since the birth of our country, but then other countries have been using that same scare tactic forever because people have different, like, it's different cultural, like, values, and they see that they're different, and they can't reconcile those differences. But if somebody is looking to obtain power, that's a fast way to do it, is to make people afraid and to promise them you'll do something about that fear that you've created in them. So you have made the fear, but you've also sold them the solution to the fear. So you're just a glorified snake oil salesman, which is all the guy is.
Yeah.
That's America in a nutshell since our
Yeah.
inception. Snake
And
oil
we've been
salesman.
doing it forever, and so it is very hard to get people to start asking why 2 or 3 questions deeper than they normally would. Like, why would they say that? Why is he not answering any questions with policy? Why is he avoiding saying yes or no to anything? Why? At first glance, it might sound good, but if you're, and especially with Donald Trump, there's nothing past the surface level. There's just nothing there.
Right.
It might make you feel good because he says things very confidently and very passionately. He doesn't say them grammatically correct or in any coherent way for the most part, but it might sound good and it might feel good because he's hitting those big words that you like and he's hitting them with the right intonations. But every question they asked him tonight that they asked him to give a yes or a no to, he just dodged.
Yeah.
He just says what's on his mind.
Everything he does. No, he doesn't. He barely says that.
No, he doesn't.
But
Well, it's
he
like
can't
that
give an
speech you
answer
talked
about
about,
policy.
Anthony. You said that speech you watched. You said you watched about 10 minutes of it and then wanted to give up. How many people do you think have done just that? Who are his fans because they simply don't have the attention span?
Yeah, and I guarantee you there's plenty of people out there who just don't. I mean, it's a willful ignorance at some point whenever you say, well, I mean, you know, I have to vote for him because Kamala is going to take my guns. Okay. Let me tell you how that is never going to happen. In all the ways that we can't even get, we can't get Congress to like give us any better health care. We can't ensure Social Security. They're not taking your fucking guns, man. It's not going to happen.
But they sure know how to take people's rights.
Oh my God, they're so fucking good at it.
It baffles me how we can't make policies to help solve like real issues. We just keep running in and we're like, all right.
Non-real issues cost less money.
That's a fact.
So if you make gay people a political issue, you can do things at very little cost.
We also can solve all of that by just constantly putting higher tariffs on China, because everyone knows that each time we increase the tariff, it does not trickle down and come on the consumer at all. Inflation doesn't happen because of that stuff. Of course not. Like, every time that's said and everyone's like, that needs to happen, I'm like, you will pay for it. You're the person.
You are going to pay for
that
it.
pays for this. China doesn't just go, I guess we'll make less money because of this.
Yeah, I don't know how he's convinced people that that's the case, that like all of his tariffs are going to...
Because he says he's going to be harder on China, and everyone's like, that's what we want. It's easy.
What does that even look like?
No,
like, if you could give me
It
your policy
looks
about
terrible
it.
because China is also a global superpower.
But people
just-
don't also know what tariffs are. I forget a lot how educated we are compared to a lot of society.
That's true. Because you say tariffs, and it sounds like you're imposing a tax on China. But that's not really how that happens. That's not really who's going to end up footing the bill. The cost rolls down to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We as the
Like-
consumer who get all of our stuff from China
exactly.
absolutely pay for it.
If you love Temu, there you are.
And then everyone's like, well, then we have to fix that by stop getting our stuff from China and having American jobs. I'm like, America pays higher wages than China. So it's still going to be expensive. There is no discount back to a cheap price with anything you're proposing.
No. And what really wrecks me about it is just, if we focused more on trying to internalize the things that we do with America, like, we could hypothetically sort of level set our economic system, because we're not dipping into the economic systems of other countries by supplying certain things from them. So like all of a sudden this thing is XYZ amount cheaper than it used to be, which completely skews the amount of income that I make, because businesses are not going to necessarily, if they have an increase in their operational costs, they're going to pass that down to the consumer. If they have a decrease in the operational cost, they're going to pass that up to the shareholders.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I just think of it like, yeah, we dip into the toe of other economies specifically because it's cheaper, And when we do that, it upsets the balance of our own economy, and there's not a good real answer for it. And anybody who says that they're just going to fix it overnight or fix it by making a phone call, they're a fucking liar.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a liar anyways, and I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you already feel that way, but Jesus fucking Christ, man.
Well, first of all, if it's that simple, then 2016 through 2020, everything would have been resolved.
That is also what blows my mind, because he spent a decent portion of the debate, especially at the end, his like closing remarks were all attacks on Kamala, which, I mean, I expected, but like asking her why she hasn't fixed anything during her time in office when you had 4 fucking years as the president of the United States and not the vice president of the United States, and you didn't do it, even though it was so fucking easy. The dissonance there just blows my mind.
And that base eats that up. They're just like, that's true. That's exactly it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Speaking of, somebody on my Facebook posted, why does this woman talk with her hands so much?
And you were like, hey, it's not my fault. I'm just like this.
And I can't tell you the restraint I had to have from having any comment, because I was like, you mean the man who talks with an accordion all the time?
Listen. I wish an accordion
This has
sound
been
would
the
play
biggest
every time he
problem
did
in
it.
economy.
I would fucking love if we could just superimpose accordion sounds over it.
It's funny that you bring up Facebook comments, Jay, because man, I haven't been diving too deep, but I've been like, every time I'll see a post and it's like been shared by somebody, I'll click at the comments just for fun, and I'll scroll through like maybe 5 or 6, and I'll just count until how many that's like some liar or some naysayer or some negativity or someone who like wants to start a thoughtful conversation or is saying something accurate. Even then, they're just dragged down in the bog of Facebook comment land every time.
Oh, because you're a Marxist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That happened to me.
Other
in
buzzword that everyone
2020,
loves.
I think.
Yeah.
I commented on something and somebody's like, oh, well, then you're just a fucking Marxist. And I was like, sure.
I see.
Was it a Girth
I've
Brooks
gotten
video?
away from trying to commenting on those things, but let's say I've commented on something and then somebody else comes there and like makes a shitty comment or tries to have a thoughtful conversation about Donald Trump and have a real conversation. I don't do that anymore on social media. I just tell them whatever especially if they say something like, well, this, and this, and especially if it's untrue. I'm just like, that's fucking stupid what you said. That's fucking stupid. You're fucking stupid, and what you said was fucking stupid. Because I don't want to argue. I'm not arguing with you anymore. You're saying stupid fucking shit, and I think it's just time to tell you that you're fucking stupid.
I actually hardly get on Facebook anymore, but I intended to scroll just a little bit just to see what the people I know that are Trumpies, what they were saying, and it was very funny to watch them like criticize Kamala based off of the silliest things.
I know.
When I'm like, well, you can't criticize her because she's actually throwing out policy concepts, unlike Trump. But you can sure trash her for having a smirk on her face, for being too arrogant, for talking with her hands. My favorite scene, though,
As he puts his hands up.
my favorite scene during the debate was when she was. Sorry, I have to do my Trump hands now.
Animate more. Animate.
Was when she was talking and she's like, this former president.
I know. It's just
You could tell she was about to go, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
And that was probably my favorite scene of all the clips I saw, was this former president.
I liked how they turned off their mics because you could either hear them faintly still because they weren't in an arena. They were just six feet away
apart
from the moderators. It wasn't really, it was, okay. Anyway, shutting off their mics to make it so they wouldn't interrupt each other. But one of the parts where Trump was talking about them eating pets in Ohio. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe he said that.
I know.
Anyway, it was during that part, and both of their faces were on, and she was just listening to him, and she just starts looking like, even like like Jim from The Office. Like, is this really happening? Like, I'm surprised she didn't just look at the camera.
I mean,
and then she just mouthed the word "unbelievable" during his rant, and because it is unbelievable.
She's like laughing, and she's like, "Unbelievable!" And she has the Jim face, 100%. Like, you guys, I'm competing against this.
It is so wild to me that we let politicians lie to us on camera during a presidential debate. The moderators confirm that they're lying in the middle of it, and that person isn't just immediately kicked out of politics. Like they're just not just immediately like, you can't be president because you're fucking lying.
But I saw something that I never really thought of it this way, but Trump is treated like he's being graded on a curve, is how they describe it. He's terrible at this, and he lies all the time, and he causes a lot of issues. But because he has a base, they're like, well, I guess we have to support him. And so he doesn't get criticized as hardcore, which his base will tell you this is wrong. But he doesn't get criticized and discredited and kicked out as easily as other politicians.
Well, because when he's not bashing on other people, he's spending all his time bitching about how everyone doesn't like him and is attacking him and is out to get him. Like, he's sowing the seeds of that inside his base, and they all fucking eat it up. Like, oh, you're right. Anytime we see somebody be mean to him, that's confirmation of what he's saying, and that must be true.
Yeah.
He's a convicted felon. Why is he even still running?
I don't know. You can't work at the place where I work in any capacity if you're a convicted felon. No capacity whatsoever. You can't do anything. You can't take out the trash.
Well, it's because his base believes it's a sham, so you...
Which, personally, I'm against, by the way. Like, I think felons should be able to work in certain... Like, that's a whole other thing. But President of the United States, what the fuck?
My thing is if we're not going to be strict on that, then why are we strict everywhere else?
Exactly. If we can rehabilitate people back into society and everything, but letting him just hop back into the president's seat is not rehabilitation.
After
what he needs.
The Supreme Court has ruled, like, if he gets that spot, if he makes it into the presidency, he is immune, and those charges go away. Like,
man, fuck that Supreme Court. Fuck the Supreme Court.
Fuck. Anyways.
Well, and it's the same concept as, the age issue. If we're going to let them keep running in Congress and take our tax dollars, then we need to fucking let them work as long as possible in these industries then, instead of kicking them all out early. I don't like that idea, but we got to stop being so unfair about this. Everything has, I don't know, it's so fucked. I'm so tired. Tired.
It's the shittiest part about being in a rebuilding season. I hate being this part of a history book.
Maybe the system of government that we implemented back in 1770 something, well, not exactly 76, but around there, isn't the best system of government for 2024. Just throwing it out there. It's a system of government made exclusively by old white dudes, for old white dudes.
Yeah, they were drafting the right to bear arms, and they were like, well, this is a single-shot musket that you have to load with gunpowder and then manually pump, and then you have to shoot the bear outside on your front lawn. And then they're like, well, also, if you want an assault rifle and you want to walk until an elementary school, also, they're like, oh, yeah, draft it all. Make it vague as hell.
But I should have my rights.
Can you imagine telling George Washington about assault rifles in elementary schools?
I could tell him about RuPaul's Drag Race, and he'd drop dead on the spot.
He'd be like, oh, they weareth wigs. I weareth a wig.
If anything, he'd be like, say what? And then, like, drop his overcoat, and he's, like, he shows off a new gown.
It's just Evie Oddly.
Yeah.
Slay, queen, bring down the monarchy.
Like, he drops his overcoat, and you hear Rue going, woo!
Well, I feel like
getting old.
This first part of the episode has gone on a lot longer than it usually does.
Yeah.
So do you guys think it's time for a commercial?
Probably.
Please, God, let's go to commercial.
Okay. And now, for a word from our sponsor, Dolan Frumps Accordions.
Try to make speech and tired of people not understanding what you're saying? Use your hands and get yourself a new Dolan Trump's accordion. Your speeches will never be more suitable for you if you use a Dolan Trump's accordion. Even famous people use Dolan Trump's accordion to make their speeches. Listen to this famous person.
They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and immigrants.
Also, listen to this famous person whose speeches would never be better without Dolan Trump's accordion.
Kamala Harris wants to turn you and your children into transgenders with surgery. And now she's going to the border and making immigrants get transgender surgery.
We don't really have any other famous people who use Dolan Trump's accordion, so you only get that guy. But we guarantee it works because somehow he once became president using Dolan Trump's accordion. Remember, with Dolan Trump's accordion, you will always get your points across with your hands.
Hey guys, make sure you follow and subscribe to our podcast so you can receive a notification every Sunday when a new episode drops.
Well, I don't know about you, but whenever I really need to make it look like I'm not necessarily talking with my hands and that I'm actually doing something, I go to Dolan Trump's accordions, and I get myself a Dolan Trump accordion. They're the biggest, the hugest accordions you could have asked for. The biggest, the greatest.
You know, when I had the idea to start those Dolan Frum's accordions, people said I couldn't do it, but I really could do it. It was the best thing ever, and I proved them all wrong.
I gotta tell you, their local connections they have with the shelter next door with all those cats and dogs, man, that appetizer menu is lit.
Ooh, I did love that new restaurant, Springfield, Ohio. They have the best cat tartare.
It's called raw pussy, Jay.
Yeah, and it's salty.
And it varies from person to person.
I love their hot dogs.
I like their Southwest egg rolls.
It's called a dog kebab.
Dog kebab. Yeah, you get to roast your own dog. Oh. Oh, I don't like my joke anymore.
He's like, I made myself sad.
Never mind. I don't like my joke. It's sad.
Yeah, see, isn't that sad? Because it's awful, and that's not something that's actually happening, and that's just called fear-mongering.
Well, Beardos, if you need something to do with your hands during your presidential debate when you're lying, I recommend Dolan Trump's accordions.
I recommend lying down on the bed and using your hands in a better way instead.
I recommend dropping out of the presidential race and maybe letting somebody who actually knows what they're doing take charge. Maybe somebody with, I don't know, a law degree. Maybe somebody with experience running government. Like, I don't know, just throwing it out there.
I can't wait to see all the corporations try to buy Tim Walz, and he'll just be like, nah.
Nah. It's a nah from me, dog.
So
He's
they'll
like-
probably just kill him instead.
He's like, I don't need money. I got dad cred. Because he does.
He does.
Anyways,
Yes.
do we have any Beardo submitted sundries this week?
So we do still have one left, since technically we used one for the entire episode.
Man,
used it-
Bryce, way to
used it a
hijack the
lot.
whole first segment.
Yeah, Bryce, you took
Come
it all.
on.
But I did get an Apple Podcast review.
Ooh, what does it say? Ampersand?
No, it's titled Daddy's Got It. The review says, I went shopping at the Beards and Sundries Market 2 years ago, sampled some Kool-Aid on aisle 4, and have been addicted to the weekly sundries ever since. I've become such a faithful listener that I've received a nickname and a jingle. This is just one of the examples of how these three gay men with beards have created a family of snarky, sarcastic, and wonderful beardos. Their content and banter is witty, funny, sometimes raunchy, and always entertaining.
Aww.
I bet that was Derek with the good beard.
I'm betting that is Derek with the good beard.
Oh, was it Derek?
I could be wrong, but also the account name that posted it says Indie Derek.
Oh. It could have been the other Derek.
It could have been
Yeah.
Indie Derek.
Indie Derek, the guy who makes all those indie films.
Yeah.
Where in the world is Indie Derek?
Indie Derek. You just a little at the end because you got to get those syllables in.
But that was it on my content this week.
Well, thank you, Derek. We do appreciate you leaving a review. Finally, it's only taken 2 years.
Well, we had to win him over.
Thank you, Derek. Well, thank you, Derek. There. Was that good, Anthony?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. I
Speaking of fungus,
went and painted ceramics again this last weekend.
I meant to ask you, how was ceramics last weekend?
It was fun. I did 4 plates and a little, like, storage box. So I wanted to make plates that would match my color scheme.
Wow, so when you guys walked in, was your friend like, I really want to do this? Like, when they said it the first time?
What?
You don't remember that?
In the 2 episodes ago? It was last week's episode.
Yeah.
My gay friend's like, I want to do this! And then Anthony was like,
No, he held it together. His straight acting little self pulled it together, but he did 2
Straight
items,
acting.
and they all came out pretty cute.
what were
Yeah.
they?
He did one of those, like, light up pumpkins.
Okay, so he did, oh gosh.
You mean a
Anthony, what's-
jack-o'-lantern?
No,
Well, yeah.
Pumpkaboo. Oh, he did Pumpkaboo.
And then Pokemon.
Yeah, right.
And what was the other thing he did? Oh, he did a Christmas tree, but he did it like black and purple for Halloween.
Ooh, fancy. Well, I gotta tell you, that sounds like a ton of fun, Jay. Although I wish that you had gotten a Pokemon and painted it how you think it should have been painted. That would have been really
that's
exciting
right.
for me.
I forgot about that.
You have
I was
to
in there.
send you
I saw
that
plates. And I
coloring
went, oh,
book.
dishes.
You send you like a coloring book for it once you get settled into the new place, and then like once a week you can color one Pokemon for us so that we know
Without
so we can
looking.
see. You just so that you like so we can see what you think it's supposed to look like, and that'll be a social media post.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I do like it.
Jay's versus the actual side by side.
Yeah, nailed it.
Who's that interpretation by Jay?
Oh my
Who's
god,
that
we could
Pokemon interpretation?
we could do like a series. We have to have like a Pokemon episode where we like each like no, never mind. No, this is too visual. It's too visual. It's not a podcast episode. Moving on. Anyways. Well then, moving on from that, does anybody have anything to check out this week?
I have a fun one this week. So this is another one that I found on TikTok, and it's what looks to be a local small business kind of Etsy store kind of situation here, and it looks like it's called Dysfunctional Pass Holder. And what they have here is a series of cards called Poke-Not cards, and they are hand-drawn illustrations of someone's, like, you know, poor interpretation of a Pokemon if they had never seen it before. So the first card she pulled is, instead of its Doduo, the bird that has 2 heads that looks like a ostrich, this is Doo-Doo, with a poorly drawn version of Doduo. And then next she pulled Charman, who is a small Charmander, who is a small Charmander-looking guy who has a disheveled appearance, and instead of a flame on his tail, there's a little middle finger. Next, she's got Weefle, who is supposed to be Weedle, but is a more shriveled up, small, brown piece of poop-looking Pokemon. Dragonmite instead of Dragonite. So she's got Dragonmite, and he's kind of like, eh. And then the last one is Gyarados, but instead of Gyarados, his name is Gerald, and he looks like this. Man. He just looks angry like Squidward. So
He's just some guy.
I just thought it would be maybe like a fun kind of thing if you're not really into Pokemon to buy a few of these and then like go up to some of your Pokemon friends and be like, hey guys, you want to trade? And like, it'd be a fun way to start a conversation or a good way to break the ice on a first gay date. So there you go.
That's true, especially if they like Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Or if they don't like Pokemon and like really good art.
Well, I love that, Joe. I remember you showing these to me the other day, and they are, in fact, hilarious, especially Gerald.
Yes. Good old Gerald.
These are cards even Jay could get into. Which is wild, because Jay is falling asleep in his chair as we speak. He had his eyes closed for like 60 full seconds.
I kind of got a headache. Out of the blue. Like,
you're giving me that one, too.
I was like, I'm kind of feeling drained all of a sudden. I'm like, what the hell happened to me?
Well, this whole episode has kind of gone on, so...
Oh, well, it's just also I've had a weird few days of terrible sleep, so I think it just keeps catching up with me.
You guys, this episode has gone on for a hot minute, and I think that we're probably in a decent space to go ahead and wrap up and flip the music back on ourselves instead of doing one of these outros.
Before we do, on your way out, before we do our outros, guys, I want you to pick an item from aisle 4 that you would bring on a gay first date.
Boxed wine.
On a first date?
Yeah, they can watch me get drunk. I'll be a red flag, that's fine.
And here I was going to say poppers.
Dating's exhausting, and I'm just like, just deal with it. This is life anymore.
Hang on. Poppers?
Well, I'm bringing some caucasity seasoning and a jug of our finest Beards and Sundries blend. But yes, Anthony, the music is kicking back on, so you want to take us out?
Absolutely, because it is the sound of the Dolan Frump accordion big band. It's all accordions, though.
The biggest band you've ever seen?
Ever. Huge. But go call our hotline real quick at 405-999-2242.
And Beardos, we love a first date, a third date, 69th date, 100th date. However many dates you need, we love them all. But it is time for us to go get back on the clock and restock aisle 4. It's just been rampaged. If you'd like to go help us out, go and subscribe to our podcast so you can get reminders every Sunday when we release a new episode. We also post frequent updates on all of our social media sites for any sundries that we add to the market.
And don't forget to rate us 5 stars and leave a review, even if it has taken you 2 years to do so. Please go ahead and do it. Thanks, Derek. Also, if each one of you would tell every date that you go on about the podcast, whether they asked or not, that would help our growth. Probably not a lot, but maybe some.
Go check our socials and comment on them about the best place to find cat and dog food in Springfield, Ohio, because we need to know. So go check us out and let us know on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or Threads. Check out our website, beardsandsundries.com. You can go find the buy merch button there and go buy some clothing or cups. Or go email us at beardsandsundries@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and read it out on our next episode.
So, from the 3 of us, unread 3 text message notifications, which is okay, on your phone, make sure to...
And especially important on this one, to love yourself.
Because we already love you, because we respect who you are as a person.
And we hope you gave consent for that.
We're loving you from a distance, not physically, unless you say that's okay.
No.
Get in my bubble.
Bye. Bye. Bye.